Welcome back to the Full Force Fathers podcast. Dave, it is episode 102. How are you today?
I am doing great. I'm in a change of clothes. I had to go home midday today because of the rain here. Love Middle Tennessee, especially in the spring. It's perfect.
Yeah, we were talking earlier and you're like, dude, it's raining out. And then you're like, now it's really raining out. You're like, what the hell? It's pouring out.
Wasn't good. And I was at the furthest spot away from where I could possibly be. So, yeah, I was soaked through to the core. Found out that my rain jacket that I bought at an outlet was not actually completely weatherproof. The zipper area apparently was not sealed like the rest of the jacket. So when I took my jacket off, I had water from about here all the way down, all the way down my shirt. It just looked ridiculous. So, PSA: don't buy a rain jacket at an outlet store.
No, definitely don't do that. One thing I will say, it brings up a good topic. Some things in life you can't skimp on. There's just things you can't, like quality items you can't skimp on. I have a raincoat. I have a Columbia raincoat that was, I don't know how much Andine spent on it. She got it me for my birthday 5-6 years ago, dude. That thing, like when 75 Hard started, I was maybe at day 10 and we had one of those like hail, freaking sleet, cold winter Arizona days. And I got home and every part of my body was soaked to the core except what was underneath my jacket, bone dry.
Yep. Good rain jacket. I'm going to need to go and find one now because we know it rains enough here, so I'm going to need it.
Dude, and daylight savings time just happened. How stupid is daylight savings time?
I hate daylight savings time. It's the dumbest thing ever. Well, now we're 2 hours apart, which is absolutely terrible. I hate that. It's crazy to think like an hour what a difference that makes, but it really does. And I just hate it. Like it's great that it's now lighter later in the day. Like I get that. That's awesome. But at the same time, now it's dark until I'm in work already, and that part just sucks. I used to enjoy coming in. The sun was coming up as I was coming in, and really like wake you up and get you going. But not anymore. Drive in the dark. Sweet.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking about it in Arizona. There is no daylight savings time. It's one of the few great things left about this state is there is no daylight savings time, and it's already light out now till almost 7 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Where the rest of the country now is just starting to get to that. Dude, we've been, since we've been gaining the 4 to 5 minutes a day. The other night it was 6:30 and it was still sunny out, 75 and sunny at 6:30, and yeah. So we don't worry about daylight saving time. It does suck. 2 hours really sucks for us because it's already hard enough to plan our show and schedule it around a 1 hour time difference. Because if you got something going on or I got to pick up the girls or whatever the case, or it's the weekend and it's church, now 2 hours just makes it more difficult because I'm used to you calling me around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what I'm saying? And now the 2 hour time change, it's so stupid because it's earlier here. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. Daylight savings time in a nutshell is pretty fucking stupid. But hey, we got a good show in store for you. We got episode 102. I'm jumping in with the Bible verse today. It comes from Hebrews 2:9. And it says, and I'm stealing this, by the way, Chad Wright, thank you. He spoke of this scripture on his show a couple of weeks ago. So I am absolutely pirating the use of it from him because it just made me stop and think. I was out on a workout, 75 hard. I think I might have been down around day 53. And I was in the meat grinder of hills in the desert with my legs. And this scripture came up in his podcast. They're talking about hard work. And it says, Hebrews 2:9, but we do see Jesus, who was made lower than the angels for a little while, now crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. And now there's probably a bunch of ways you can interpret it. Some people won't understand it at all. The big word in that whole entire phrase is the word suffer. If we want anything good in our lives, Dave, as full force fathers, we're going to have to suffer a little bit. Right? If it's our money, if it's our physical fitness, if it's our faith, we're going to suffer. Jesus suffered and paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. And if we want anything good, there's no quick fix. Being a full force father isn't something you go to sleep on a Tuesday and you wake up Wednesday and all of a sudden you're a full force father. It's not how it works. You will have to endure some suffering. And one of the big things you mentioned today when we were talking earlier is like, dude, if you're in debt right now, you are going to suffer. And it is just imperative to get out of it. But you are going to have to battle through the suffering of getting out of debt to get the glory of what it's like to live without it. And it is just so important to be able to suffer. Like the way Chad mentioned in his podcast, there's no quick fix, man. You go to some speaking seminar and do these 5 things every day and your life's going to be perfect. There's no quick fix. There's no heck, dude, you're going to suffer. Andy says it all the time. You're going to grind. It's going to suck a lot. But Hebrews 2:9 hits it on the head, where our Almighty King, the Prince, right? The Prince of Peace, we call him, the sufferer of death. Mm-hmm. So for us is just, you know what I mean, the ultimate amount of suffering. But yeah, in general, to tie it the way that I tie it into everyday life is we're all going to have to suffer at some point. So get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. We do have to suffer it. Like we were talking earlier, finance is a big one, especially right now with the cost of everything. Everything's on the rise. Inflation's crazy, printing money everywhere, and it's affecting you every single day. What used to go, the money that used to last you a month only lasts you maybe 2.5 weeks now. And that's really hard for people to deal with. So if you've got a lot of debt, yeah, you're going to be suffering right now. And that suffering might come in the form of needing to get a second job and pay off that debt. That might be what the suffering is. It might not just be the financial stress. That's part of the suffering, but the suffering as a full force father is to suffer through that, do what you need to do to get yourself on the other side of it. Same with your health, right? We're doing 75 hard right now. I let myself go a little bit. I put on some pounds. I am suffering right now because of that. I'm going through this and putting myself through the grinder to be able to get myself back to a place that I am happy with. So yeah, you're going through a process of suffering all the time to get better in different areas of your life.
Yeah, Chad said it, and it was funny how he said it. He said you can choose to suffer in the short term or the long term. But he was mentioning goals and like long-term goals. He goes, everybody wants to, pick a goal that's a week away or 2 weeks away or a month away. He used the analogy of a marathon. Oh, I'm going to do a marathon in a month. And then you go and it takes you 7 hours to finish it. And the suffering is far worse doing suffering through that 7 hours of marathon versus if you pick a marathon a year from now and you suffer for that entire year up until that race and you run it in 3 hours. You know what I mean? It's you choose which suffer is going to be the one you're picking, but to be able to endure the suffering for a long time pays the dividends at the end. The short-term suffer doesn't do anything for you in the big picture. But speaking of suffering, we are closing in on the end of this 75 hard. We're only going to have one more episode after this where we are in 75 hard right now. Currently, you're day 66. I am day 64 of 75 hard. And my first question to you is, are you going straight into phase 1 or not?
I'm not planning on it. I can plan to continue to do the 75 hard program. But I'm not going to I don't think I'm planning on doing the live hard program this year. So I'm not going to jump right into phase 1. If I decide to do it at some point, then I can pick back up with phase 1. But at this point, no. You?
I think I'm going to just jump right into phase 1 because this is the best time of the year to do 75 hard, I think. I think you agree too, because if you start right at the new year, the first 75 days or so, you really don't have a lot of excuses. You got Valentine's Day in there. You got, the Super Bowl party, maybe March Madness if UConn, you go to the Final Four or whatnot. But you don't have a lot of roadblocks in the sense of hiccup days. You're kind of just going through the monotony of the end of winter, kind of like days, 40 through 60. You're just going through the motions. It's dark in the morning, it's dark at night, and you're getting through it. But there may be no better time to do it because there's not very many hiccups. But for me, I'm with you. I'm probably not going to do the Live Hard program. I don't know. I may change my mind. But the reason why I'm going to do phase 1 right away is I'm going to keep myself on track to be able to do the Live Hard program if I do choose to. Just the thought of phase 3, knowing that you've done it and I've done it, phase 3 during Christmas, it just doesn't sound appealing to me. I enjoy it. Listen, I'm a bitch. I'm being a bitch and I admit it, but I enjoy a dessert, at Thanksgiving. I enjoy a dessert at Christmas. We don't drink, so it's not alcohol. It's the sweets, man. I want a piece of cheesecake or I want a chocolate chip cookie or Andine makes peanut butter blossoms for Christmas. Like I enjoy those things. So 75 hard. The meeting the stranger, that's the easy part. The act of kindness, I don't find those parts difficult. For me, 75 hard during the holidays is the diet. And it made me stop and think of the calendar. There's only one other time of the year that I think is a good time to start 75 hard. And I think it's the ideal time to start 75 hard if you're going to do the Live Hard program, and that's July 4th. when
Yeah.
I did Live Hard, and when you did you do Live Hard? Same thing, July, right?
Yeah, it was July when I started it the first time and did the whole Live Hard program.
Yeah, because July, just like January, there's not very many hiccups. After July 4th, you don't have a lot of hiccups. Your 75 days is done before Halloween, which is the big candy holiday and the Halloween parties. It's one of the big five party. I think it's a top five party holiday of the year is Halloween, especially for adults. But um, yeah, when I did Live Hard completely, I started July 2nd, so I gave up the July 4th. But once again, July 4th is a cookout, so burgers, that's not a fail on your diet. You know what I mean? So, July, August, and part of September, it's pretty easy to go through 75 hard. Now, ideally, not weather-wise, though. July in Tennessee and July in Arizona is miserable.
Yes, incredibly. Incredibly just hot in Arizona and hot and humid in Tennessee. It's brutal. I don't know that I necessarily want to do it then. Although I'll tell you what, man, doing 75 hard right now, I had a day where it was -8, and I've had a day where it was 78. So I've had a full spectrum of temperatures, all sorts of weather, snow, ice, rain, sun. So I've hit the gamut here this time, so maybe it wouldn't be as bad. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I'm trying to think. When I did Live Hard, I finished in Arizona last year, and I remember it being like the end of June, middle of June, because you finish on your anniversary date. And June's the worst month here because it's 115 and no rain. I remember some of
No
those
rain.
workouts. Some of those workouts were 90 degrees at 7 in the morning, dude. It's just fucking brutal,
Yeah.
dude. Or at night
Yeah.
when it's sweltering and it's still 105 at 7 p.m. You're like, shit, I got to do another workout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in terms of Live Hard, I think midsummer start is great. In terms of 75 hard, I just don't think it just coincides with the new year, new you, blah, blah, blah. You're down, like you said, you're not giving yourself enough credit, but you also are honest with yourself that you let yourself go a little bit. So you're not giving yourself the credit because you put yourself in the position, but what you've done so far this round, 66 days in, is very impressive. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
first time you did 75 hard, this time, and then Carp, when he did it, I mean, dude, you guys put a lot of work in, lost a fuck ton of weight. You know what I mean? Really cleaned up the diet and whatnot, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, no. So we'll only have one more episode next week. Will be our last episode by around 75 hard, because then the following episode, probably which will be our Easter episode, we will be off of 75 hard. I'll be getting ready to maybe I won't go straight into 70 to phase one now. I think about it because Andine will make a cheesecake for Easter, but Easter's in March this year, so I could always just wait until Easter's over. Next day, boom, April 1.
1st, man.
Yeah,
April 1st, we could start phase one and rock and roll.
And just rip through April 1st, April 1. But anyways, a bunch of topics to talk about today. And you brought up a topic that you wanted to talk about, so let's jump into it. And you said kids' activities. Where do we draw the line with kids' activities?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that I've been rattling around in my head right now because, first off, they can cost a lot of money, and secondly, they can consume a lot of time, right? So, one of our kids does karate. That's over $200 a month for 8 classes, and also does rec league basketball, which for the season is north of $150, $175, depending on when you sign up. The other one does rec league sports. I think his league was over 200. The 2 rec sports, Saturdays and Sundays, are tied up with that, 2-3 hours a pop. During the week, like I said, we've got karate, which takes up, an hour between travel, getting there, doing it, and getting home. So it's like, where do you draw the line on these things? I know we want our kids to have experiences, find the things that they really like to do. It'd be interesting to find out, like, what your thoughts are on kids' activities, and also, like, are there free options out there for things to do that we could get kids in to learn these things, see if it's something they really like?
Well, it ties into an episode we did a long time ago that really strikes a chord with me and pisses me off, and it's the monetization of kids' sports. There's no reason why it should cost $275 for a kid to play sports. Unless these towns and counties are just so fucking greedy with how much they charge these organizations for field time. The fact that, let's just use soccer for an example. 10 kids, $275. That's $2,750. You got to pay coaches fees depending on that. And there's more than 10 kids because they play 11 to 11. So you're talking 15 kids, right? It ties into the monetization of kids sports that pisses me off because, they need new jerseys every year, but then they get sponsors on the jerseys. So if they're getting sponsors on the jerseys, aren't these sponsors paying money to be on the jersey? So why are we still charging the kids so much? In terms
Mm-hmm.
of where you draw the line, I just don't, I don't have it's kind of gray, right? It's not black and white. Like some kids just fall in love with one thing and that's it. And forever, that's it. Like they want to play soccer or like it's the Tiger Woods, right? It's golf all the time, 24/7, nothing else. Then there's the Roger Federer argument. He played soccer, he played tennis, he played basketball. Could have probably been a pro in all of them. Tony Romo played multiple sports, all-state golfer, all-state tennis player, all-state football player, ended up being a
Mm-hmm.
successful NFL quarterback. But those are anomalies because only 1%, it's less than 1% of the population is ever going to be a professional athlete. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard because, and you said karate 8 classes a week or 8 classes a month is $200, dude. Caroline does horseback riding lessons. $240. Caroline does horseback riding lessons. That's $50 an hour. Like that's not fucking cheap, but that's what it costs to do horseback riding lessons. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more than an hour. It turns out to be like an hour and 20 minutes by the time you drop off. They tack up the horse and they brush the horse afterwards. So there are sports that are more expensive than others. And yeah, I guess you draw the line as to where the budget is, where the budget comes into play. But I just don't know. As long as it's not like the kids want money to be like part of a video game club or some bullshit that you're against, you know what I mean? I'm never going to tell my kids, you can't play sports, you can't do this, you can't do that. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's hard to draw a line on it because they are your kids, right? And you want to see them be happy and, you know what I mean? But if it pulls away from 100% family time all the time, then yeah, then you have to, eat to each your own, but you're going to have to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's, like you said, there is no just firm line in the sand of where it is. I think the budget definitely dictates a lot of that. And if you have the wherewithal to be able to provide those opportunities, but I do think the time commitment's another big part of it too.
Yep.
The only night that we have during the week that currently doesn't have something related to the kids is Monday. Mm-hmm. Tuesdays, Thursdays, karate. Wednesdays, religious education. Fridays, football. Sundays, football. Saturdays, basketball. And that's just crazy. I think we're kind of at capacity right now. I don't think there's another thing we could jam in if we had to. And I think that might have to be the line in the sand, right?
Yeah, well, the time commitment is totally different, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, Caroline's horseback riding Wednesdays, religious education Tuesdays, 4-H is Sundays, one Sunday a month, one Monday a month. And then, Madison's got her club that she's in school. When she's playing school sports, which there's no school sport for like 2 more weeks, and then it's track season. That's every single day. I have to go, someone's got to go pick her up after track practice. Then you're going to throw in track meets, right? Mm-hmm. On top of it. Caroline volunteers once a week or so over at the horse place. So she, she'll ride once a week. She goes there once a week to just do some work, clean the stalls, brush the horses, help with baths, cleaning all the animals and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And that's not even including Finley. Finley just came up to me yesterday and said, "Hey, Dad, when are we going to start the basketball team?" Because she wants to go play basketball. She's 6. She's a big kid now. She wants to play basketball. So now it's like, okay, well, the day I form the basketball team or decide to coach the basketball team, that's going to be 3 days a week with Finley. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And Dean, my job luckily is more flexible. I can come and go. I can pick the girls up. I can do more errands. And Dean's job's not as flexible. Yeah, she works remote, but she's got to be in front of her computer a lot. She can't really work from her cell phone like I can do when I'm on the road and when moving around. So, I actually think, I do believe you would probably run into a time issue that before you run. I mean, I don't know. I guess if you're broke and you don't have any money, and then the money automatically can just cancel it out. But if you do have the money and the means to let your kids play sports and do activities, then yeah, at some point the time there's not going to be enough time. They're just not going to be able to do it. You know what I mean? So, but it's a good topic that you brought up, and it's weird because there is no real line in the sand until you actually just can't physically make it in the calendar to get them to or from wherever they want to go or what they're doing.
Yeah, and there's things I think that you need as a family to determine what's most important, right? We've talked about on the show before how important sitting down together as a family for dinner is. And like, so for us, that's one line we don't cross.
Yeah.
We will sit down for dinner every night as a family, and nothing comes in the way of that. So I think based off of your priorities as a family, budget, time, all those things go into the equation, and ultimately you have to make your own decision there.
Yeah, yeah, and we're that way too. There's only one day. The only day of the week we do not eat dinner together is Tuesdays because we just can't because religious education for the young ones is 4:30 to 6 and religious education for Madison is 6:30 to 8. There's just no dinner time involved. It's the only that's it's not possible. But every other night of the week we sit down as a family and eat dinner, and we don't, our dinner time is our dinner time is no social media, no phones at the dinner table, which ties me into a terrible segue into, hey, last week, wasn't it interesting? Now we've had 2 weeks in a row, Dave, where we've had major technology glitches. We'll call them glitches. 2 weeks ago, AT&T went out. You were affected. You didn't have cell
Yeah.
phone service for an entire day unless you had Wi-Fi. And then just
Yep.
last week, how coincidental, on Super Tuesday, tinfoil hat here on my bald head, on Super Tuesday, there's millions and millions of people, but there's an outage for Facebook and Instagram. I mean, what's the next technology issue we're going to get, Dave?
I don't know. That's a great question. And for what it's worth, I don't believe in coincidences at all. So the fact that it happened on Super Tuesday, yeah, I think there's a legitimate reason there. I don't think you have to tinfoil hat it. As far as what the next thing's going to be, I don't know. I think they're going to progressively make it worse. They're going to continue to make it more difficult for folks to go about their life. It's funny. I didn't even know about the
Yeah.
outage. I had no idea. You had to tell me about it because I don't use any of it anymore. But I think it's hysterical that all these people who are so dependent on social media, it was like their world ended.
Mm-hmm.
Like it absolutely ended. And the only thing that happened was they couldn't like, comment, and scroll mindlessly in the course of the day. That's sad. It really is sad.
Yeah, you're right, man. I only found out because if you guys follow me on my personal pages, every day I post a picture on Instagram on my personal page that says go outside. And it's usually a picture of the sunrise or the mountains or a picture that I got throughout the week with the girls outside playing or whatever. And this morning, that morning when I went to post that picture, it just wouldn't post. And I'm like, that's strange. It just kept saying error, error, error. So I didn't think anything of it. Swiped out, in the traditional mindless scrolling, which I'm guilty of. I'm not perfect. I opened up Facebook and it had logged me out. And I'm like, that's interesting. So Facebook logged me out. Instagram's not posting. They're owned by the same company. I'm like, obviously there's a problem. So, I had gone home, finished my workout. I said, Andine, is your Facebook working? She goes, I'm not even going to try. She goes, because if I get logged out of my Facebook, I don't know my password. I'll never be able to get back in again. And then that's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, oh, cool. So that's when I noticed something was up. And then, I went on the internet on my work computer, opened up the news, the Fox News channel, and Fox News is like millions of people without outage, Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is a blessing. I'm already doing social free Sundays. I've already cut back significantly on social media. Wouldn't it just be great if it just went out? Because the fact of the matter is, yeah, dude, I use it every day. 100% I'm on Facebook and Instagram every single day, and I admit it. But if it went away, would it change my life? And that's a very, very, very definitive no. It would not affect my life in any way. Even though I'd like to think when I post on my business page, it brings me in tons of business. It doesn't. It's just a way to stay relevant I use it to stay relevant in the world. And who knows, maybe a realtor, potential referral partner stumbles across my page. They like what I have to say and they reach out. But for the most part, it's not like a big business producer. I truly believe unless you are e-commerce or you retail sales something like apparel or, name anything, bikes, food, unless you actually like I don't sell a product. I sell myself to do your mortgage, right? I really don't believe that you get a ton of clientele that way unless you are in some sort of retail space where you actually can click the link,
Mm-hmm.
order the t-shirt, click the link, order the fucking plates, click the link, order the bicycle, right? I don't think you get a lot of traction that way. So even though I like to think it makes me relevant, at the end of the day, if it went away, like my business wouldn't fold up shop and I would be out of a job because Facebook and Instagram were down. You know what I'm saying? So in a secret, weird kind of way, I'm like, damn, I wish it lasted more than the however many hours it was last week that it went out. It would have been fucking hilarious if it went out for like a day or two. It would have been awesome in a way.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. I didn't even think about that, but like, think about all the influencers who make money off their
Yeah.
posts on there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those people had to be absolutely losing their mind. But as far as the next thing to go out, I mean, I bet you we're going to start to see like rolling blackouts and things like that, and power's going to start to get cut, and people are going to really start feeling it. Maybe there'll be gas shortages. I don't know. But it's going to progressively get worse, I think, as the summer goes on.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you mentioned gas prices, and gas prices. Just last week, I called you one day. I'm like, these fucking communists. And you're like, what happened now? I was like, dude, I filled up. It was whatever it was. I filled up fuel. The next morning, it went up 43 cents a gallon. The next morning. Overnight, 43 cents.
Do you remember when gas used to go up like a penny every week or a couple weeks? Like that was the big fluctuation. Now it goes up 43 cents overnight. I see it here too. It'll go up 30, 40 cents. Same thing overnight. I go to work and it's one price and I come home and it's another price. You know, gas 2 minutes up the road is 60 cents more a gallon than it is, you know, down by my house. Like they get you everywhere. It's awful. I don't know why. Excuse me. There's so much fluctuation now in the price. Like I get that it's high, given the economy where it is and the administration that's in and the policies that are in place. But like the fact that it jumps that much overnight is absolutely insane. And I always tie things back to the finances and to the budget, right? Like how are you supposed to budget for that? 50 cents a gallon? That's a lot. Every time you go, like if you're driving a truck or a big SUV, I mean, that's 25, 30 gallons. I mean, that could be upwards of $15 a fill up.
Dude.
You know, just in that change. That's a lot.
It's huge, dude.
That's a lot of money. So
my truck is 35 as a 34-gallon tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's 50 cents more overnight, dude, you're talking like $16 or $17 difference. Like it is a big. And then Andine said she went to work last week. She went to the office. She had a meeting at the office, and she said at one of the pumps, diesel and gas were the same price. And I said, holy shit, dude, that's never the case. At the time, you know, that day in particular, it was $3.59 a piece. Diesel and gas had both been the same at the same, and that's literally you never see that happen. But it's like you said, dude, how do you budget? How do you budget for $17 overnight swings? And let me tell you, it's never a $17 overnight swing to the good. It's always to the bad. It's never a good swing for you. It always goes the opposite way, and it's just fucking ludicrous to think. But
well, it's like mortgage interest rates, right? It goes, it takes you 2 weeks to get them down 0.25%, and then one day comes and it shoots up 0.5%. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, how does that possibly happen?
Yeah, and I think, you know, the other thing is, you know, we don't really talk about jobs very much, you know, on our show, and we probably could. The job market right now is a farce. It's a house of cards. The government props up with all these job reports, the BLS and the ADP, and they say the job market's great, unemployment's low, blah 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 blah. It's not, dude. It's not, dude. Every day you read something about more layoffs coming from this, from that, construction, tech, businesses closing up shop because they can't afford to stay open anymore. And it's terrifying that we're on like I said, we're literally, it's a house of cards right now. The economy is a house of cards, and all it takes is a gust of wind or someone to pull out one card, and the whole thing comes crumbling down, dude. I firmly believe that you can't just continue to print money without consequences, and I may be dead wrong, dude, because the debt goes up $1 trillion every 100 days, but we still go to work every day and we still live our lives every day. So maybe I'm just dead wrong. Maybe it can just continue. As long as they keep printing money, then they can sustain it. But at some point, the piper's going to get paid, dude. With all the debt circulation, with all the credit card debt, consumer debt, mortgages that are going to be late, car payments that are late, the amount of we can't even afford. All of our tax dollars can't even afford the interest on our debt payments that we have. You know, 30-something trillion dollars. I mean, it's monopoly money. It doesn't even make any sense. It's not real life. But here we are, the middle-class citizens that get the fucking brunt of the bullshit for the bad decisions that they make it's unbelievable, dude. It really is.
Yeah, it's always crazy to me too to think how much we pay in taxes, right? You got your federal tax rate, you got the state income tax, you've got all the other taxes you pay, your gas tax, taxes on all the goods and services you buy. You've got all these taxes, right? Which come out to well over 50% of our income. And we, at the end of the day, have nothing left to cover these ridiculous hikes of
Yeah.
prices of all the goods and services that we buy. Everything is just so high. And when you're paying that much out, like you look at your salary, you're like, oh yeah, I make a really good salary. But when you look at how much you have to pay to the government um, in taxes, really you end up coming away with nothing, less than
Yeah.
we ever did, and stuff costs more than it ever did. So it's really really difficult right now, and you really have to buckle down and focus on it.
Yeah, we literally are animals. I saw a good meme. The internet's good for memes too. That's one thing the internet's good for. And it said that we're just animals that live on a tax farm. That's all we are, dude. They tax you for your clothes. They tax you for your food. They tax you for your car, what you drive. They tax you where you live. They tax you on fuel. They tax you on, the money that you make. They tax you to go hunting. They tax you to go fishing. You know what I mean? It is unbelievable the amount of taxes that we pay. When just to think that original tax was a 3% tax that was supposed to be temporary. Everybody forgets that. It was supposed to be a temporary tax. And here we are now, this many years later, and we are literally, like you said, dude, we're taxed 50%. I don't care what anybody says. You're paying 50% in tax. You absolutely are paying 50% in tax,
Mm-hmm.
whether you believe it or not. And it's just one of those things. Taxes, money, it all just like it's another. I just reiterate, and you do too all the time, how important it is to have your shit together. Some people say hey, get your house in order. I just say, dude, just get your shit together, man. Your money, your health, your faith, because you have first and foremost, you have nothing without your health. Like if you don't have health, it don't fucking matter how much money you have, how much money you don't have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like things like focus on things that you can do now to just be more prepared. Whether you think an apocalypse is coming, or you think we're just going to be fine and we're just going to mosey on down the road. I mean, we did something this year. We just were a week into it. We did meat birds this year. We got 20 chickens to raise. As you guys all know, we have eggs. We have laying hens. We get eggs every day from our chickens. I don't got to buy eggs at the store. I know where they come from. Makes me feel good. And I'm healthier for it because I'm not buying bleached eggs and chlorinated eggs and all other shit you buy at the store. But we bought meat birds this year. It's just another way that we can get prepared because with the Texas wildfires that have been happening the last couple of weeks, meat's going to skyrocket. So, hey, we were proactive a few months ago and said, we're going to do meat birds. So we ordered 20 meat chickens. We got 20 meat chickens right now. We're raising them for 7 weeks. We'll butcher them. We'll have 20 chickens in the freezer. You know what I mean? We got 6 more laying hens
Yep.
this year, because, hey, egg production after year 2 starts to slow down. So let's just keep the flock nice and fresh and get more eggs so we can help us out. If times need it, we can help neighbors out. But, at least at the bare minimum, like just have necessities on hand. Have water, right? You need water to live more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oxygen and water. Have some water on hand. Whether you buy 3 or 4 extra cases of water to keep in the closet, dude, you never think about it. It doesn't go bad. It's just water, or have some food. Have some extra canned food in your house just in case. Power goes out. We're joking around AT&T and then Facebook and Instagram, but what if power goes out like for a day or 2? Like, do you have anything? Everything in your fridge is going to go bad, right? Do you have a
Mm-hmm.
generator that you can keep your fridge and your freezer running for a week or 2? Hopefully you don't got to. Hopefully if power ever did go out, it's not for more than a couple of days because after that, I don't really care how prepared you are. If you lose power for 2-3 weeks, you can only have so much gas and so much generators and all that stuff ready for you. But to just be prepared at the bare
Yeah.
minimum for some things is important. You know what I mean? Have some medical supplies. How many people can go in their bathrooms right now, Dave, and open up their medicine cabinet? Maybe they have a box of Band-Aids. Maybe they have
Mm-hmm.
peroxide. No, you know what I mean? Like, do yourself a
Mm-hmm.
favor. If you're going to spend money on Netflix and Hulu and, nothing against TV. We're not big TV watchers, but who cares? I'm just using it as an example. Some of your subscription services or some bullshit that you buy on Amazon. Why don't you buy some medical supplies? Buy a kit. Spend $100 and get a kit in your house that has gauze and
Mm-hmm.
sterile gauze pads and bacitracin and rubbing alcohol, iodine, peroxide, big bandages, little bandages, tape, scissors. You know what I mean? That stuff, well, you'll never go wrong by having that stuff. But buy your kid another fucking toy that they don't touch you know what I mean, 2 days later is a waste of your fucking $15 to $30 on a toy or some shit. You know what I mean? Or a shirt that you wear once and then you're never going to wear it again. Just like be prepared a little bit. Like the world, as much as I want the world to just be good, like it's not right now. And it's just, I don't care. Spend $500 if you got it, $300 if you got it, and just be prepared for shit, because I also don't believe in coincidences. AT&T goes out Super Tuesday last week. We lose Facebook and Instagram. Dude, you have no idea what's coming down the pipe, dude. We just have no idea.
Yep. Yeah, you said it. You really don't. We have no idea what to expect. We can expect the worst. So the best thing you can do is just be prepared. And you gave some very practical, simple things that are pretty cost effective, to be able to put yourself in a decent position and hold the line for a little bit of time. Like you said, if it goes out for multiple weeks, we're in trouble, just as a whole. If there's a food shortage or something like that, it's going to be a problem. But if you can get yourself in a good position for a few days, I don't think right out of the gate there'd be a week-long thing. So it's probably just a small disturbance to see what kind of response there is. But I'll tell you what, man, the more prepared you can be, just have enough water. Like you said, you need water. That's the one thing you absolutely need more than anything. Have enough of that on hand to last you a few days, some food. And I'll tell you what, make sure you've got some cash in the safe too. You got to save. You should go to the bank. You should take out some money. You should put it in your safe so that you have it in the event that you can't use your debit card or your electronic payment method on your phone, your tap pay and all these different things don't work. Cold hard cash, always going to work.
Yeah, yes, and if there's no internet, you can't use your debit card anymore. You can't use your credit card anymore if there's no internet. Everything is run off of the grid, off of the internet. If you don't have that, you can't do anything. The internet is probably the most important thing because it controls everybody's jobs and lives, and there's obviously there's a saying out there that says you're at least at the very least you're 9 meals away from anarchy. That's a saying that's been around for years. That means 3 squares a day for 3 days. If you do anything, make sure that you and everyone in your household has at least 3 days worth of food. You know what I mean? After that, like you said, if we're going 3, 4 days, 5 days, no power, no something, it's a big deal. But 9 meals away from anarchy. Dude, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner in your cabinet that is non-perishable. I don't care about at that point when you're talking about survival, it's not about health. It's about survival. It's not about, man, I got to get my 200 grams of protein and my 38 grams of carbs and my this, you know what I mean? Dude, go get yourself a fucking 2 cases of ramen noodles for $6, dude, and get 20 gallons of water. That gives you enough food for a week and enough water for a week, and it's going to cost you $30, and it doesn't go bad.
Yep. It's a great idea.
I'm just saying, I said, I don't know. I've just become so much more aware, and I don't know about you. This may be a episode for another time, but I've become so much more aware as to my surroundings, and I've become so much more situationally aware as I've gotten older. And I think it's part of life. You just become more aware the older you get. But these last few years have really opened my eyes up to so many things that I'm like, dude, fuck, dude, no way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
And anyways, excuse me, before we wrap up, I have a very funny story I have to say, because as you know, as Full Force fathers, it is our job and our duty to embarrass the shit out of our kids every opportunity that we get. And just last week, I pick up Madison from school every day after 8th grade ends. I go to meet her at the parking lot. She crosses the crosswalk, and I'm always there waiting for her every day. So just last week, I was went to pick her up from school, and it's a beautiful day out. And right out in front of the school, they have a beautiful grass field, like gorgeous, like green, lush green grass, which, is very rare out here in the desert. So Finley's like, Dad, can we get out of the car today and we can go play in the grass? Let's go play tag, and then we'll wait for Madison to come out. You know what I mean? So I said, that's a great idea, baby. So we go down the grass. We're barefoot. We're running around in the grass. It feels good on our feet. And then I see the bell rings and the kids start coming out of school. Now there's like 800 kids in her school. So I said, I got a great idea, Finley. Let's embarrass Madison. She goes, what do you want to do? I'm like, let's go over here. We'll duck down behind this sign. And when she comes across the crosswalk, we'll jump up and yell her name as loud as possible. And I said, that's such an amazing idea. Let's do it. And she goes, okay. So we go over, we creep down behind this little bush or whatever. And we're sitting there and it bing, 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 the bell rings and the kids all come flooding out. And we see Madison from a distance. And we're like, yeah, we're not going to say anything. We're going to do this. So I said, Finley, on my count, jump up and scream Madison's name as loud as you can. And here she is walking, 8th grade girl, right? 8th grade girl walking with her girlfriends, coming across the crosswalk, dude. And here she comes. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3. We jump up. We're like, Madison! As loud as we can in front of the entire fucking 8th grade class. And fucking, you want to see someone go as white as a ghost. There's nothing more embarrassing to a 13-year-old girl than to have you show up in your short shorts and my workout jogger shorts, dude, with the fucking other kid completely barefoot. And we scream her name without. So what does Finley do? Finley adds insult to injury. Finley sprints over to her and just literally bear hugs her and tries to tackle her in the grass. And I run over to her, dude. I'm like, "Hey, babe, come here." And I go to give her a hug, and she literally tried to push me away. She was so fucking. She was like one of those moments. If you're watching on YouTube, she was like, "I don't know him. Nobody look at me, please. Nobody. I hope no cute boys saw my dad do that to me." And dude, and there's another dad there picking up his daughter, dude. And what did he do? He came right to me. He gave me a fist bump. He goes, "Good job, Dad."
That's great. Oh man, that's a place I love having the opportunity to embarrass our kids. But at the same time, it's kind of sad, right? Because like she's at that age now where stuff does embarrass her, whereas a few years ago it wouldn't have. And so that part of it is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it sucked bad because I felt I didn't. I mean, at no point did I ever feel bad because I tell her, I'm like, you should be so grateful that you have a cool dad, right? I go to all the games, I drop you off, I pick you up, I'm a coach, I'm young, I'm fit, I can fuck around like nobody, like I'm 15 years old, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's versus the fat dad, the non-full force father that just sits at home and works and makes his kid take the bus and isn't engaged and isn't involved and stuff. But like, you're right, dude. They are at that age where it's very embarrassing. And like right now is that age until they get to like junior year of high school again, where like your parents are totally not cool. Like we're not cool right now.
Mm-mm.
So
yeah,
anyways, funny. That was my funny story.
It's good. I like that. Way to go.
Anyways, well, that's episode 102, Dave. Bring us on home.
All right, everybody. Continue to live the full force life. Do those things to put yourself in a position to be prepared for whatever may come. And remember, things come through suffering. So you're going to suffer, whether it's today or tomorrow. You're going to suffer to get better. Embrace it and make it part of your life. And we'll see you next week.